Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to Blood-Splattered Cinema, where I would normally put the laughter back into slaughter, but not this week. Cause you see, while I am hard at work on my next slumber party video, it's actually taking a little bit longer than I anticipated. So to make up for that, this week I'm gonna take some time out of my schedule to talk about a subgenre that I actually like quite a lot. But first, it's time for some backstory. The home invasion subgenre is one that gained particular prevalence in the last 10 or so years, but actually dates all the way back to a 1913 silent short simply titled Suspense, in which a vagrant finds his way inside of a mother's home and attempts to knife her to death before the father arrives and saves the day. Hooray for happy endings! And pre-code too. Trust me, that's actually pretty noteworthy. One small side note, while Suspense is notable for a variety of reasons, the main one is because it's the product of America's first female filmmaker, Lois Weber, who both wrote and co-directed the film alongside her husband. Also, she plays the mother in the short because she was quite the Renaissance woman. But to get back to the topic at hand, since Suspense there have been a plethora of films that have taken the simple premise of someone invading another person's home with nefarious intentions and have gone in quite a variety of directions with it. You got your serious crime dramas like The Desperate Hours, your family comedies like Home Alone, and of course, your modern day masked invader horror movies like The Purge. So needless to say, this subgenre is fucking huge, and since it's pretty popular these days, I figured why not count down my favorites? So lock up them doors and shut them blinds, cause tonight I'm breaking straight into your homes in order to present to you my top 10 home invasion films of all time.
Number 10.
Ah yes, the aggression scale. Now this is how you start off a movie list with a fucking bang. Because trust me when I say, this movie is both fucking awesome and completely fucking nuts. The story chronicles the tale of a group of ruthless thugs infiltrating a family's brand new home in search of their mob boss's money, only to find their hands completely full when the teenage daughter and her stepbrother fight back using every dirty trick in the book. Now I know what you gotta be thinking. That sounds an awful lot like Home Alone, except with an extra sibling present. What the heck, Guru? How dare you include a Home Alone clone on a blood-splattered cinema list? Well, my fellow gorehounds, what if I told you that you were only half correct? That this movie is indeed a lot like Home Alone, if you were to switch out the goofy-faced Kevin with Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm not even fucking joking. This kid right here, you find out over the course of the movie that he's been diagnosed a sociopath with extreme aggression issues. Emphasis on the extreme part. If I don't have you sold based on that fact alone, I don't even know what the hell. But it is true that unlike a lot of films on this list, the aggression scale isn't a horror film so much as a hard R action. But trust me when I say there is still a ton of brutal shit that even the most hardened gorehound can appreciate. My mouth was agape quite a few times over the course of this movie, and I cringed a lot, in the best ways possible. So if you want to check out a home invasion flick that is way more Rambo than Panic Room, then this is absolutely the flick for you.
Number 9.
Them or ILS? Eels? I honestly have no clue how to pronounce that, so I'm just gonna stick with Them. Sorry guys. Them is a French-Romanian collaboration film about a couple who wake up one night to witness their car getting stolen and their home being broken into. Oh no, it's so scary. I think I'm gonna bite my nails off. Now truth be told, this is the film I consider to be the prototypical modern home invasion film. It's kinda like the Halloween of the subgenre, in that while it's certainly certainly was not the first, it definitely set the template for that which followed. Seriously, watch this flick and then rewatch The Strangers or The Purge, and try to tell me you don't see more than a few parallels. But that's not to say I consider either of those films rip-offs, any more than I consider Prom Night or Friday the 13th a rip-off, just that they're both built on top of the base that them set up. Anyway, to get back to the movie proper, what I find most impressive about this film is that it's an excellent exercise in ever-mounting tension. Every suspense scene flows directly into the next, escalating the sensation ever so slightly until the shit hits the fan and your heart's beating right out of your chest. And you probably didn't even realize it had started beating faster to begin with. The movie gotcha, and you didn't even know. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say this movie's use of tension is so well done, it should be shown in film classes as an example. It's that fucking intense. I also really appreciate how much less dialogue there is here compared to the American counterparts. I like that the movie allows the situations to explain themselves, rather than forcing the characters to unnaturally recite their decisions to the audience, because obviously we're all too dumb to put two and two together, right? La la la. So thank you, them, for being a horror movie that treats its audience both as adults and with the utmost respect. Also, thank you for being suspenseful as fuck. Seriously, guys, this movie was so fucking tense, I think I shit my pants. You know what, I should probably get that looked at. I'll be right back.
Number 8.
Hey, Ricky. Shit'll get off the pot.
Shut up! She's afraid, can't you see? I don't like to do it this way.
Oh hell yeah, it's about time we got ourselves a video nasty on this list. And what a nasty film this is indeed. When two psychotic killers crash a yuppie get-together, the stuffy party quickly turns into an absolute celebration of rape, torture, and a whole lot of David Hess debauchery. Oh yeah! But before I talk about anything, I should first mention that this flick has a bit of a reputation, and for good reason too. The story goes, when director Ruggiero Deodato first received the script, he initially declined it because it was far too violent for his tastes. Now, for any other director, that wouldn't raise any eyebrows because, well, a graphic horror film isn't exactly for everybody. But here's the thing about Ruggiero Deodato. This is the man who directed Cannibal fucking Holocaust. So when this dude says too violent, you know you got yourself something really special on your hands. And by special, I of course mean grotesque and uncomfortable in all my favorite ways. But if I'm honest, it's not exactly the violence per se that puts this film on the list, but rather the main man himself, Mr. David Hess. Holy crap, if you have no idea who this guy is, he's fucking amazing. He's seriously the best in the biz at playing the type of complete scumbag who simultaneously repulses yet fascinates. In this film, for example, I found myself really wanting to know what makes this Alex guy tick, even though I knew the answer would more than likely disturb the shit out of me. Like seriously, how the hell is this guy able to show a complete disregard for human life 1 minute, and then the next treat his partner here like a brother he never had? I mean, you could totally tell this dude legitimately loves the guy, even though people are normally just his little playthings. And in the hands of a lesser actor, this could easily have felt out of character, but in Hess's case, his transitions from one facet to the other are completely seamless. And yes, this is apparent despite the Italian overdubbing. Truly impressive to say the least. Anyway, House on the Edge of the Park, or House of the Park on the Edge, as the original trailer stated, seriously, nice going there guys, beautiful, is without a doubt the sleaziest entry on this list, and thus is not for everybody. But if you are the type to like yourself a good Italian exploitation flick once in a while, then accept no substitutes.
Number 7.
When a couple con men are blackmailed into retrieving a doll filled with heroin that accidentally ended up in the hands of an oblivious photographer, it's up to the photographer's blind wife, played by Audrey Hepburn, to match wits with the con men and fight them head on when things turn sour. Wait Until Dark is an oldie but a goodie, and what I really like about it is that at its core, it's about a woman overcoming a crippling disability in the face of extraordinary circumstances. Our main character is relatively new to being blind, and thus her life is a constant struggle of relearning how to do things that were once second nature to her, as well as being constantly reminded how vulnerable she really is. In fact, the con men in question deliberately use her blindness against her, because if she doesn't see it, then she wouldn't know it happened, right? Except this backfires on them, and over the course of the film, our protagonist discovers that her blindness can be an asset and allows her to see through disguises that would normally fool the eye, as well as fight in the shadows where the predators become the vulnerable. In fact, my favorite moment in the movie is when she finally pieces together what's been going on and tries to call the police, only to find out they cut the phone line while she was distracted. She immediately breaks down, realizing that she's trapped and no one's coming to save her. It's entirely up to her to save herself, which is actually a pretty good metaphor for what she's been going through with the blindness. No one's going to be able to help her rise above her own disability, only she can. It's incredibly well done, and I dug the shit out of it. Plus, any movie that's got Alan Arkin playing a crazed murderer is A-OK in my book. I love that guy. So, if you're looking for an older suspense-filled thriller with a fantastic underlying message to satisfy your midnight movie cravings, then Wait Until Dark would be your best bet.
Number 6.
Holy shit, The Strangers. Where do I even begin with this one? When a marriage proposal goes horribly awry, a young couple return home only to find a knock at their door and a single question that would begin a night of terror, the likes of which they might not survive.
Is Tamara here?
No.
Seriously, that question, that line, "Is Tamara here?" is one of those lines that, while seemingly innocuous, I still believe belongs firmly alongside "Here's Johnny" and "7 Days" as an important part of horror history. Because every time I hear that line, I'm immediately taken back to the very first time I saw this movie. And how terrified I was. And I am not mincing words when I say this film is terrifying. I remember opening night, the theater filled to the brim, my popcorn and soda in hand, and a smug, elitist smirk on my face. A smirk brought on by reading early reviews, which claimed it to be a horror movie made for those who don't watch horror movies. That smirk quickly left my face, however, as I soon realized those reviews were pure bullshit. The Strangers is not a movie made for people who don't see horror movies. It's made by people who understand how a horror movie affects an audience. Seriously, there were 0 laughs in my theater. No snickers, no chortles, just screams and shrieks and the collective sound of an entire audience shifting uncomfortably in their seats as a moment of suspense reached its frightening climax. This is a movie that put me, a lifelong horror fanatic, on edge like something you wouldn't believe. Everything from the wide-angled shots of the couple moving throughout the house and the strangers lingering in the background creepily, to the startling sounds of the fuckers playing with their prey by banging on the walls. All of it serves as a constant reminder to both the characters and the audience that there's nowhere to run. The strangers are everywhere, and they're gonna get you. And to cap it all off, at the end of the film, a question is asked by a frightened Liv Tyler, a question which she also raised twice earlier in the film, and by this point in the movie, I as an audience member also found myself wanting to know. The question I am referring to, of course, was the horrifying question of, why are you doing this to us? And then the film delivers an answer. One which still chills me to the fucking bone to this very day. An answer delivered so calmly, so matter-of-factly, so nonchalant, that it was like the final knife twist in my gut, and the movie was about to let me bleed out. I'm not gonna spoil the answer for you, because I want you to experience it the same way I did by watching the movie and hearing it for yourself. I want you to hear it the same way I did so that maybe, just maybe, you can finally understand why I love this movie so. Anyway, be sure to check out The Strangers because it's the only home invasion film on this list that I honestly could not rewatch in the dark. I'm not even joking.
Number 5.
La única que se muda, es que no es la única que se muda. Yo solamente quiero que cuentes conmigo, ¿sabes? Que me tengas en cuenta, que me apoyes.
For a while now, the French have been considered the reigning champs of home invasion movies for, obvious reasons, but it turns out Spain has been kicking ass in that arena for about as long, and hands down, my favorite of the Spanish home invasion flicks is Kidnapped, the tale of a family moving into their beautiful new dream home, only for a gang of robbers to burst in and force them to empty their bank accounts. Among other things, but let's not go into those because that's just icky. What I love the most about this film is the stark way it's presented. There's very little musical score, and the movie consists of merely 12 continuous takes, with minimal cutting, and during some sequences there's an excellent use of split screens with events happening simultaneously. As a result, the film feels like everything's happening in real time, with real people in real peril. Also, the violence is so goddamn cold and uncaring that you almost find yourself believing it's real. Film violence isn't normally this unglorified. It's loud and flashy and bang, boom, bing. But not this movie, no. Here it's the subtle snap of bone, the horrifying image of a woman being suffocated nonchalantly in the background, and the movie carrying on like it's all par for the course. It's chilling to say the least, and holy shit, it's really hard to watch. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, it's still just a movie, and no one was actually hurt, but still, it got me to believe. And it takes a really special kind of filmmaking to make me forget the illusion and accept the reality. And Kidnapped succeeded for me in that regard way better than most. So if you're looking for the kind of truly horrifying flick that will put shit in your head that you'll wish you could wash out afterwards for your own sanity's sake, then Kidnapped is the kind of flick for you. But if you think you don't have the constitution to watch people being brutalized for 2 hours, then you should probably watch something else. And as for me, I think I'm gonna go take a shower and cry myself to sleep.
Number 4.
If you know anything about the horror genre, then you are probably well aware that Black Christmas is one of the original slasher films, predating John Carpenter's Halloween by 4 long years. For this reason, I'm sure that there are some of you out there wondering why the heck I have it on my home invasion list. Well, my reasoning is actually pretty simple. This film's plot revolves around a killer breaking into a sorority house, i.e. a home equivalent for college girls, in order to stalk, kill, and terrorize them. So essentially, this is a slasher film about a home invasion, which is reason enough for me to include it, though I'll totally understand if you disagree. But please don't just fill my comment section with, that disagreement, because that would get really tedious fast. Thank you in advance for not doing that. But regardless of its genre, the main reason I included this film on the list is because it's one of the few slasher films that I consider legitimately scary. I'm serious, I still get really creeped out during the opening scene, for example, as the killer watches the girls inside and slowly climbs up the attic without them knowing. God, just something about the way he sounds in this scene always got to me. Really fucking creepy. I don't know, maybe I'm just a sucker for the old babysitter and the man upstairs urban legend, which was also the basis for the 1979 film When a Stranger Calls, by the by. Sorry, When a Stranger Calls, you were this close to making it on the list, but not quite. Anyway, to get back to the movie, Black Christmas is a piece of horror history that I find so important that I would recommend it to just about anybody, even people who don't care for slasher films or home invasion films. It's that damn good, and plus, it's got Margot Kidder, and it's always a pleasure to see her. Unless you're one of those Margot Kidder haters, which I seriously don't get you people. What's wrong with Margot Kidder? She's fucking Lois Lane. Go, Lois. Fight that fucking slasher killer. You got this. Oh, I guess she don't got this. God damn it, Margot Kidder. You had one job.
Number 3.
Unlike a lot of movies on this list, Youre Next isn't on here because it's the creepiest, scariest, or most horrifying, but because it's the funnest. When a family comes under siege during a rather confrontational family reunion, the gang of masked invaders soon discover they've bitten off far more than they can chew when one of the attendees reveals she's got a secret talent for survival. Yes, my fellow gorehounds, this is a horror film that takes the age-old trope of the survivor girl and makes it literal. Our protagonist is a full-on survivalist, and she uses her skills she's acquired over the course of her life to take out these infiltrators one by one. And it's fucking glorious! But that's not the only reason I love the shit out of this movie, as Youre Next is also a home invasion film that takes many of its cues from 1980s slasher movies, and as such, it doesn't take itself as seriously as most of its ilk. Now, that's not to say it's satirical or meta. We're not talking about another Scream or Cabin in the Woods here, but it is a film filled to the brim with black humor, most of which the characters aren't as aware of as much as the audience. Anyway, if uber serial grimdark horror films like The Strangers or Kidnapped aren't necessarily your bag, then Youre Next is probably the film you want to check out. It's fun, the kills are crazy, and it's got the most endearing protagonist of any film on this list. Seriously, I would marry the shit out of this chick. I'll just try my best not to get on her bad side. Yikes.
Number 2.
You know what happens if they get in now? They'll kill us all.
What's that? What time is it? Oh, looks like it's time to get my pecking paw on. Straw Dogs is probably the kind of masterpiece that needs no introduction, but for the uninitiated, it's a film about an American pacifist who moves to rural England to get away from the Vietnam-era chaos back home, only to find he and his wife harassed by drunken locals. And eventually, the feud escalates into a full-on assault on his home, and when backed into a corner, he finds himself with no choice but to fight back and give in to his own violent impulses, the very same impulses he abhorred from the society he moved to get away from. What I love the most about this film is that there really is no good guy, so to speak. Everyone in their own way are incredibly flawed people, especially the protagonist, who despite thinking himself an enlightened, non-violent modern man, constantly exhibits a violent temper that's way more prevalent than he thinks it is. He's also incredibly prideful, choosing choosing not to resolve quickly escalating situations on pure principle rather than any logical reason, which is why the situation goes as far as it does now that I think about it. And on top of all that, he's a fucking coward, often taking his aggressions out on his wife and not on those who wronged him because they might actually hurt him. But all of his flaws are completely intentional because this isn't the kind of film where you're supposed to take a side. It's an intense exploration on man's instinctual capacity for violence and everything therein. Territorialism, misogyny, sadism, and even vigilanteism to a certain extent. It's about how even the most seemingly enlightened person is perfectly capable of awful things, and how sometimes those awful things might be justified and other times they're not. And how just because they're justified, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not awful. Essentially what I'm saying is this is a film coded entirely in gray areas and not an exercise in black and white moralism as most films are. Though I will say this, if there is one message to be taken above all else from this film, intentionally or no, it's that violence is not heroic or glamorous, it's barbaric and destructive, even when necessary. Oh, I think after that I'm gonna have to rename this show Pretension Splattered Cinema.
And finally, number 1.
And here we are, my absolute favorite home invasion movie of all time, Inside, a French film about a madwoman breaking into a pregnant mother's home in order to viciously carve out her most precious possession. What? Did my plot synopsis there just make you a little uncomfortable? Did the idea of horror history's most fucked up C-section make you squirm a little in your seat? Wait, what? No? It didn't? Well, shit! I guess you really are a gorehound. Oh man, I'm so proud right now. They all grow up so fast. Anyway, before I even knew what other movies I was going to include on this list, I knew hands down right away that Inside had to be number 1. There really was no competition here, guys. This movie rocks my fucking world. I love it. It's got everything from a foreboding atmosphere, a wonderfully endearing lead, a completely terrifying antagonist, some legitimately frightening sequences, as well as many horrifying beyond belief ones. Like, holy shit, guys, I'm not even playing around. This movie is the messiest movie on this list. And I'm not even talking about the script or the editing either. I'm talking about that gooey red stuff. Oh yeah, that's the way, I like it, Essentially what I'm trying to say is, what I love the most about this movie is that it's an unrelenting exercise in extreme brutality. It dares you to keep watching it, even though you know you're not gonna like what you see. Unless you're me, of course. But that's not to say this movie is without artistic merit, like some people assume anytime a horror fan praises a film for its unrestrained nature. At its core, this is a movie about motherhood, a theme layered throughout the film in both subtle and not so subtle ways. But unfortunately, most of which I can't actually explain without spoiling the whole movie. And trust me, I don't want to do that because I want y'all to see it. So for now, I'm just gonna leave it at this. Inside isn't just the best home invasion movie ever fucking made, it's also one of the greatest horror movies made in the last 20 years. And I highly recommend any horror fan to check it out at least once. And if you do, and you end up not liking the movie, I will find you, I will hunt you down, and I will probably buy you a beer and ask you why you didn't like it because I'd be legitimately curious. Also, this movie has a concussion zombie. And no, I'm not going to explain that statement one bit. You're going to have to just see it for yourself. And there you have it, my top 10 home invasion movies of all time. Hopefully the list was satisfactory, but if it wasn't, feel free to post your very own below. Who knows, maybe you've seen one that I haven't seen and you'll prompt me to check it out, and maybe I'll like it. I actually really like getting horror movie recommendations. It's kind of like Christmas for me. Anyway, peace out my fellow gorehounds, and I'll catch y'all later.